The Kardashians, I mean, just say the name and it kicks off a whole conversation, right? And their relationships, well, they've always been this huge magnet for public attention and, let's be honest, a lot of debate. So today, we're diving into exactly that. We're looking closer at the complex dynamics of their really high-profile romances, especially this consistent pattern of partnering with Black men. Yeah, our goal here is to unpack what might be drawing them to these partners, what the bigger societal impacts are, and why the reactions are just so, well, polarized. Are these relationships actually breaking down norms, or maybe are they reinforcing narratives that are, frankly, a bit more troubling? For this deep dive, we're pulling from different places, including a really thorough analysis called Kardashian Interracial Relationships, Race, Privilege, and Culture. We've sifted through it to bring you the key insights, the most interesting bits. And hey, if you like getting into these kinds of complex topics and expanding your understanding, you should definitely check out Mind Expansion Daily. It's a great resource we often use for fresh takes. Okay, so let's set the scene first. Let's just quickly run through the relationships themselves because there really is a clear pattern emerging. Kim Kardashian, obviously, her love life's been under the most intense scrutiny. You had her early marriage to Damon Thomas, the music producer. Then remember that super short, like 72-day marriage to Chris Humphries, the NBA player, back in 2011?
Right. That was a whole media frenzy.
Totally. But the relationship that really made waves, I think we'd agree, was her marriage to Kanye West.
Oh, absolutely. Even though they divorced in 2021, that pairing is still kind of a benchmark when people talk about celebrity interracial relationships.
It's exactly. And then there's Chloe. Her relationship with Tristan Thompson, the NBA player, has been, well, a total public roller coaster, hasn't it?
Yeah. Talk about ups and downs.
Yeah.
Very public breakups, getting back together, the infidelity scandals, all playing out live, basically.
And they have 2 kids together, which adds another layer. Then you've got Kylie Jenner and Travis Scott, the rapper. They also share 2 children.
And their relationship has had a huge cultural impact, too, especially, with younger fans.
Right. And it doesn't stop there. Courtney, before Travis Barker, she was linked with Yoon's Benjima. And Kendall Jenner, her dating history includes reported relationships with Black athletes like Devin Booker.
Mm-hmm.
So it all adds up to this really noticeable family trend of partnering with Black men. It feels like more than just random chance.
And that's really the interesting part, isn't it? It moves beyond just who's dating whom. These aren't just tabloid stories. When you look at them together as a pattern, it forces us to ask some pretty significant questions, like why this consistent gravitation towards Black men? And maybe even more crucially, how are these very public relationships seen? How are they interpreted in a society that's still, really wrestling with race?
Yeah, it makes you think about what's going on beneath the surface.
Exactly, the underlying currents.
And that's where it gets really complex because public reaction is like split right down the middle. It's incredibly polarized. On one hand, some people definitely see these high-profile interracial couples as, a good thing, a progressive step.
Right, like they're challenging old norms.
Yeah, pushing back on traditional ideas, promoting love across racial lines, maybe even helping wider society become more accepting of interracial relationships generally. It's seen as a positive visibility thing.
Okay, so that's the pro side, if you will.
But then there's this really strong counter-argument, a much more critical take. This side often accuses the sisters of maybe fetishizing Black men, like reducing them to a type. Or maybe more broadly, using these relationships as a kind of cultural appropriation to make their brand seem cooler or more relevant.
Leveraging the relationship itself.
Exactly. You see tons of posts online, especially on X, speculating that, a big chunk of their fame actually comes from pairing with Black athletes and rappers just to gain that cultural clout. It's a sharp criticism.
And that ties directly into this whole idea of blackfishing, which keeps coming up in discussions about them.
Yeah. Explain that a bit more.
Well, it's this accusation that they adopt aesthetics associated with Black culture without having the actual lived experience.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the criticisms around wearing traditionally Black hairstyles, cornrows, bantu knots, or even cosmetic procedures that enhance features often associated with Black women.
Okay.
A really key example people point to is that Kim Kardashian Paper magazine shoot from 2014.
Oh, the Break the Internet one?
That's the one.
Mm-hmm.
It directly referenced imagery from Jean-Paul Goude's older, quite controversial Jungle Fever photos. And it just blew up, people calling it out for playing into racist stereotypes.
Right.
So the core criticism, really, is this idea that the sisters get to profit from Black culture, for the aesthetics, from the coolness factor. But they get to sidestep the systemic racism and discrimination that Black women often face for embodying those very same styles or features. They get the upside without the downside, critics say.
So they're accused of benefiting without paying the cost, basically. Does the analysis suggest if this is seen as like a deliberate strategy, or is it just something that happens because they're famous? Where does privilege fit in?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it really brings us to this critical point about race meeting privilege. As women of Armenian and European descent, the Kardashians operate with white privilege. That's undeniable. This gives them a kind of flexibility, a freedom to move through cultural spaces and adopt styles in a way that's often just not available to black women without facing backlash or prejudice. Okay.
Their ability to wear certain hairstyles or, change their bodies to align with certain aesthetics without facing the same discrimination black women might face for the exact same things that really highlights a power imbalance.
Yeah, I see that.
There's a quote from one scholar that puts it bluntly. The sisters experience everything but the burden of being black women. They get to capitalize on elements of blackness, but they're still protected by their whiteness. For critics, that's the heart of the problem.
Wow. And how does that extend to the relationships themselves?
Well, think about how their partners, usually very successful black athletes or musicians, are often presented in the media.
Right, there are definitely tropes.
Exactly. Often hypermasculine, culturally cool, maybe a bit dangerous, which can end up reinforcing existing stereotypes about black men. So the argument from critics is that these relationships can almost become a way of commodifying blackness, turning their partners and even their mixed-race children into like accessories for the brand.
That's a really challenging idea. The kids is part of the brand. It's uncomfortable, yeah. It raises that tough question. Are the biracial children sometimes featured as a kind of shield against the appropriation accusations? Or, in a more cynical view, are they presented almost like a marketable asset? It definitely makes people uneasy.
That's a heavy critique. But what about the people who do see these relationships as helping normalize interracial couples? How do they push back against that commodification idea? Is there another way to look at it?
That's fair. The counter-argument usually centers on intent. If the love is real, if the relationships are genuine, then any cultural ripple effects or branding benefits are just side effects, unintended consequences.
Okay.
They might also say, look, celebrity culture always blurs these lines. Public figures often leverage their whole lives for attention, not just the racial aspects.
Right, it's part of the game.
But the consistency of the pattern, plus the simultaneous adoption of black aesthetics, makes it really hard for critics to just separate the relationship from the branding.
Yeah, the two seem linked.
And even when Kim has tried to address it, like in that 2018 interview where she talked about raising biracial kids and wanting them to be really aware of their heritage.
I remember that.
Well, she still faced backlash almost immediately after for things like calling Fulani braids Bo Derek braids.
Oh, right. That caused a huge stir.
Exactly. It highlighted this perceived gap between what she said her intentions were and how her actions were actually perceived, often erasing the cultural origins.
So actions sometimes undermine the words, at least in the public perception. Which brings us to the media's role in all this, right? It's massive.
Absolutely huge.
Tabloids, reality TV, the very things that made the Kardashians famous, they shape how we see these relationships. They often sensationalize them, framing the black men involved in these kind of stereotypical ways. The athlete, the rapper, maybe the bad boy.
Reduces them to characters almost.
Yeah, it simplifies complex people for easy consumption, and that can definitely reinforce harmful ideas about black masculinity. And meanwhile, the sisters usually come across as, glamorous, powerful women. Critics argue this sort of glosses over or sanitizes their potential role in cultural appropriation.
Right. And social media just turns the volume up on all of it.
Oh, totally. Like on X, you see constant debates. Are the relationships real? Are they just for fame? Is it calculated?
And didn't someone even connect it back to the Ray J tape?
Yeah, there was that whole speculative discussion online that the tape somehow sort of caused the explosion of interracial content in media. It just shows how tangled their personal lives are with their public image, sometimes in ways they probably can't even control.
Which leads us back to that core question. What really drives this consistent attraction to black men for the Kardashian sisters? If we try to synthesize the different views, well, one argument is simply genuine preference. Maybe it's shaped by growing up in LA around diverse communities, close to the music and sports worlds. That environment could just naturally influence who they connect with, who they find attractive.
Plausible. Just personal taste formed by environment.
Then there's the more critical view. It's calculated, pointing to their history of using controversy to stay relevant, to generate buzz. From this angle, the relationships, like their fashion choices, tap into cultural trends that get a lot of attention. It suggests a strategic use of Black culture, including relationships, to maintain their position in the spotlight.
So genuine attraction versus strategic branding.
The reality is probably, like most things, somewhere in the middle, a mix of factors. You can't just dismiss personal attraction,
Hmm.
but you also can't ignore that their brand thrives on buzz and being talked about.
Right.
And these relationships with high-profile Black men, combined with adopting Black aesthetics, have undeniably been a massive part of their fame engine. It maybe taps into a wider American thing, too, this fascination with Black culture, where elements get consumed without always grappling with the history or the social context.
Okay, so wrapping this up, it's clear these relationships are way more than just celebrity gossip.
Definitely. They're like a lens, aren't they? A
Hmm.
microcosm reflecting these bigger societal tensions around race, privilege, power, and how they all intersect in interracial relationships.
Some see progress and normalization.
While others see potential exploitation, commodification, profiting from Black culture.
It leaves us with a lot to think about.
And maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Think about their role now as mothers to biracial children. How might that very personal reality shape how they engage with race issues going forward? How might it change their public actions or statements?
That's interesting because you see Kim's work in criminal justice reform, like with Alice Marie Johnson.
Right, which suggests some level of engagement, some awareness.
But then critics sometimes dismiss even that as maybe performative, especially when viewed alongside the ongoing appropriation debates.
Exactly. Does becoming a mother to biracial children automatically lead to a deeper, more authentic understanding and engagement? Or does it just add another complicated layer to their public story? It's definitely not a simple question.
It really isn't. That's a great point to end on. So, we want to hear from you now. What are your thoughts on all this? The Kardashian relationships challenging norms or reinforcing stereotypes? Let us know in the comments. Share your take. We do read them. And if this deep dive got you thinking and you want more content that breaks down complex issues, please do like and subscribe to Mind Expansion Daily. We aim to get you well informed, fast. Thanks for tuning in.